Welcome to This Week in Washington for Friday, October the 19th, 2012. I've just returned from Salt Lake City, where I had an opportunity to participate in this year's Rural and Inner-City Bus Conference sponsored by the Federal Transit Administration. I also had the opportunity to run into three of your fellow board members at the conference, including Moses Stites, Dave Marsh, and our newest member, Elaine Wells. I was particularly glad to be there when the Administrators' Awards for Outstanding Service in Rural Transportation were presented. This year's awards focused on rural transportation agencies in the United States providing outstanding services to veterans and their families. Elaine Wells' organization, RIDES, was singled out as one of those award winners for their outstanding services to veterans and their families in the communities they call home. I know that all of you share with me our pride in Elaine's success, and I hope that you'll be contacting her in the next several weeks to let her know how proud you are of their achievement and their leadership as an organization in providing such important services to rural Americans. In the conference itself, I participated in two sessions, one with the presidents of APTA and the ABA to talk about the impact of MAP 21 and the important contributions it can make to our work, and I also participated in the town hall session at the end of the conference where issues that discussed the changes in demographics of rural America and their impact on transportation were the primary topics of discussion and deliberation. In the first session with our colleagues from APTA and the ABA, I talked about our disappointment in MAP 21, how after 4 hard years, Congress was unable to get at the most significant issue we face, investment and revenue to pay for the public and community transportation programs that are essential to the American people and essential to our economic progress. That disappointment was also expressed by both Michael from APTA and Pete from the ABA. Pete spoke a lot about the important role that safety will play, especially in the inner-city bus role, and Michael spoke about the fact that we needed greater investment, and he looked forward to working with all of us together to try to get that investment once the new Congress is seated early next year. I spoke too about the disconnect between what we've put forward in MAP 21 that finally passed as opposed to what we really need, especially about the priorities of services around healthcare and employment that are also a priority for many of our members. I hope that we'll continue to raise these in the period ahead after the new Congress arrives in Washington. The second session dealt with a series of reports on the demographics on rural America that were identified in last year's census reports. And basically what we have in rural America is a series of economic challenges created by rising poverty rates, a significant aging of the rural population, the out-migration of many individuals and jobs from rural America, and the challenges that creates for both transportation providers as well as the communities they serve. In my discussion of the information that was presented, I talked about how the distances between rural citizens and rural Americans, especially the elderly, and their primary and secondary care health services were bound to increase based on what this statistical information said. We also talked about the need for greater transportation that would become inevitable as more and more job opportunities were located further and further from rural communities. I talked about the growing role that rural transportation providers would have to play, not just in the simple outlines of transportation, but how their involvement in talking about new initiatives in healthcare and economic development was becoming a priority. because it's very clear from the experiences of the last decade as well as this census information that the economic future of rural America is tied to mobility and transportation. With an aging population, the need for more employment, the greater distances to healthcare, only a strong, vigorous, and robust community and public transportation program can possibly help Americans in those areas meet their needs. All of you who are associated with rural transportation know that better than anyone else, and I was glad to be able to help bring those issues forward at the conference this year and make that a priority of the discussions. As you know, last week we also saw the second presidential debate. The debate itself reminds us that the election grows closer every single day. I asked everyone at the conference, and I asked everyone I talked to between the conference and here about contacting their candidates for public office to remind them of the important role that transportation, especially community and public transportation, play in the economic future of all communities. And I hope that all of you have had an opportunity to discuss that with those who are running for Congress during these important elections. We can't say what the outcomes will be, but I certainly hope that those who arrive after this election may be better partners with us in trying to resolve the investment questions that lie before us. I'm sure that some of you also noted this week the passage of former Pennsylvania Senator Arlen Specter. Senator Specter was an extremely important ally to our organization and to public transportation during his time in the Senate. Those of you who know the employment transportation history around the former JARC program, the Job Access and Reverse Commute effort, might remember that the reverse commute portion of this was something that Senator Specter backed and made a priority in the transportation bill. His understanding about people in urban areas going to suburban jobs was absolutely essential when all of us worked on creating new transportation alternatives in that area. Besides that, the senator was always a supporter of our efforts to try to make changes that were positive in the health and human services area. I can only hope that some of the people that might come to the Senate in this coming election could be as informed, as supportive, and as dedicated as Senator Specter was. He was missed when he left the Senate, and he is certainly missed in these transitional times when so many things that we thought were settled remain uncertain in the year ahead. So, over the next week, I hope to be in Washington. If there's some information that you need or some special issue arises, I hope you'll let me know. I am going to make sure that we get up on our website the information concerning these statistical changes in population in rural communities that was discussed at the conference will be made available for all of you. So until later, have a great weekend, and I hope that you'll remember to make those last visits to candidates as we approach the election. Thanks, have a good weekend, and goodbye for now.